Wow. Good morning, everybody. So today I'm just going to talk about 5 easy ways to get people to your website, because this seems to be something that everybody always wants to have, right? More visitors, more traffic to their website. So I've got a lot of information, and I'm just going to kind of go through some things, give you some ideas. So you guys know who I am, so I'll just kind of skip all this. A lot of times people are just struggling to get the traffic, and it's all about consistency. If you do some of these things on a regular basis, it shouldn't be that difficult. However, with that said, Goethe once said, everything is hard before it's easy. And the more that you work at things, the easier it gets. So don't get discouraged. All right. So even though I said we're going to talk about 5 things, it's kind of 4 kind of steps. It's not bait and switch, and you'll see why, because one of them is kind of big. So I'm going to talk about website platforms, optimizing your website copy, which is just the words that you put on the website, supersizing your social media, and reaching out for help. Okay. So first, website platform. When you build a website or you have a website built for you, there's a lot of different ways that you can do it. Traditional HTML, the way things start out, Wix, Squarespace, WordPress, Drupal, Joomla, and the list goes on. Some of these are a little bit older. Some of them are, most of these here are still available today. However, I'm going to be a proponent of saying WordPress is probably the best one to get indexed easily in the search engines. And the reason why I say that is that over 36% of all the websites on the internet today run on WordPress. So the search engines like Google, Bing, and Yahoo, they know how they work and they know where to look for them. If you were to create the same exact identical website in WordPress versus in Drupal or Wix or any of the other ones, the WordPress one by default will rank higher just out of the gate. So if nothing else, consider that. Okay, the next one. Now this is where the numbers kind of get weird, because we're going to be talking about optimization, search engine optimization being things that you can do on your website. And there's quite a few here, okay? In order to get a good idea about this, you really need to know your numbers, and this is metrics. And this goes through for a lot of things, your household finances, your business, etc. right? So when it comes to websites, numbers that you should track and know about are how many people come to your website, how many pages do they look at, what's the average amount on time that they're staying on your site and on each page, what's the bounce rate, meaning when they come, they see one page and go. Right? That's an indication of why aren't they sticking around and looking at other things. And then traffic sources, where are they coming from? If you're getting a lot of traffic, say from one website, you might want to take a look at why that's happening, so you can increase that either from that website or on very similar websites. Okay, and then the last thing is where do people leave your website from? These are known as exit pages. So is there a certain page when people get to where they look at and they say, okay, I'm done here? Well, why is that? Something to look at. Okay. And the idea is that you're checking your numbers, right? All those stats, all those metrics on a regular basis with frequency, because what gets measured can get managed. When you know your numbers, when you see what's happening, at least it gives you a place where you can start to look at. Okay. So you should check these maybe a few times a week. If you get really crazy about it, it's going to be more. Definitely don't do it less than once a week. As you go through it, like I said, things are always hard before it gets easy, and practice makes perfect. Okay. So moving on with the optimization piece, you want to create a better content market strategy. A lot of people says, well, I'm just going to post things out on my website or social media. And when you have an actual strategy and you can put things in place, it makes it easier for you to follow. It makes it easier for your visitors to follow. And it just adds that, that piece of consistency and steadiness that people enjoy and like to see in a company or a business or just what you're doing. Okay? So a couple ways you can do that is consider your blog. Putting out content on your website is always great, because that's going to get people to your website. Provide ebooks. These are just electronic versions of books, right? These are also white papers. Create videos. That's one of the reasons why we're here. Have a podcast. Provide infographics, information. So it's all about combining these types of things, and you don't have to do all of them, right? Things I'm going to be talking about may seem overwhelming, because you might go, holy smokes, there's so much to do. Well, my recommendation for that is just start with one. You know, maybe for you, blogging is the easiest, just coming up with one article every 2 weeks. and then increase that to once a week. Once you get good at that and you have that process down in place, well, then try something else. Maybe you want to give podcasts a shot, or maybe you want to have an ebook, or maybe just like a PDF that you can allow people to download. Okay. Speaking of the blog posts, always try to create a compelling headline. Okay? Your blog post or the headline is really what sells the content, right? That's the piece that says, yes, this is something that I want to read. If your blog posts titles aren't sounding good, and this goes, you know, I call them blog posts, that you could call them news or articles or latest tidbits. But you want something that when people read it, they go, oh, that's going to help me. Let me go read it. So I just want to give a couple of examples of titles that you can use. And these are kind of fill in the blank ones for the compelling headline. How X can do X, right? So an example is how wellness centers can get more clients this month. So what's in your industry that you can help people do like this? Okay, that's a great article that you can write. X people or things who are doing X. Okay, so 5 brands who are crushing it with online advertising. How to do X even if there's an obstacle. So again, how to get more clients even if the pandemic is shutting you down. Right? So with these types of fill in the blanks, think about what, you know, they call them pain points. What are the pain points of your clients, your customers, your prospects, and how can you help them solve that? That's going to get them to your website. Okay. How to just simply how to do X, how to rank higher on Google. Okay. And of course, fill in the topics that make sense for you. Okay. So just some general tips for writing the better headlines. You know, we talked about these. Use list posts, kind of what I was talking about. Ask a question, put that in the headline. Create some curiosity, make a sense of urgency, right? You know, the last one I mentioned had the pandemic. Everybody's going through it, they're feeling that pain. Try to get a trigger emotion in the reader. Using alliteration, make it sound cool, power words, I'm gonna talk about those in a minute. And, you know, just be as clear as possible with the value that you're going to share with them and things that they can do. So here's a list of great power words that I got from smartblogger.com. Putting these have been shown that when you put these in your headline, that people respond to that. And by respond means they're going, they're reading it, okay? Which comes to traffic. All right, next thing not to be taken care of or not to be considered lightly is supersizing your social media. You know, it's a fact that it is here to stay. People realize that. But the idea is that you want to share it the right way. So typically people will just write something and they'll blast it out to Facebook, to Twitter, they'll put it on LinkedIn, they'll put maybe an image on Pinterest. But really each platform has different nuances and you should optimize for that. Be it the image size, the title lengths, the content that you can actually, the amount of content that you can share on there, right? Twitter, number of characters is a lot different than it is on Facebook. So think about a social media calendar and list out on a calendar what your plan is. That's true for your blog posts, for your content, everything you're doing. You want to have a consistent message for that week or maybe for that month. Obviously, don't be spammy. Don't just blast out the same tweet 5 times in a row. Clog up people's feeds, those type of things. Let people share from your website. When they go to your website, let them share that on their Facebook wall or tweet that out or put it on LinkedIn. A lot of times people simply forget that, and that's one of the easiest way to start things to go viral. Not a guarantee it'll go viral, but it's a way to give people a chance. It's a lot easier to go viral than not giving them that opportunity. And then different industries actually have different peak hours. So I don't want to grab it from here, but excuse me, HubSpot has a great infographic, and afterwards I'll put this in the chat so you can take a look at it if you want. You know, if you tweet when people are there, right, and they're actively looking, especially on something like Facebook or Twitter where your feed just kind of keeps scrolling, you want to capture their attention. So know when people in your market are doing that. Okay. And then the last kind of place that I want to talk about, it's a little bit, most people don't know about it, so it's a little quirky. I thought it'd be a good thing to talk about just to give you an alternative. And that's a website called Quora. People were kind of talking about this a few years ago. It's still there, and it's really a great way to get some traffic. Okay. Now, if you've never been there, Quora is just a place where people ask questions and then other people answer them. So if you can become an expert on Quora in your field, and I say Quora, but this also is true on LinkedIn. This is true for Facebook groups. This is true for LinkedIn groups. When you're the expert, people will recognize that. And when it comes time for them to get your services, they'll think about you and contact you. So you simply open up an account on Quora or LinkedIn, like I mentioned, optimize your bio. And then the first thing you have to do is select, I think it's 8 categories that you want to kind of be notified of. And those will be in your field, right? And then just search for great questions. Look for the groups that are there and then just answer them. Your answers can be anywhere from, a couple sentences, if that's what warrants a good answer, or a couple paragraphs. But the idea is you're showing people that you know the information. And these are people that are coming looking specifically for these types of answers. Okay. When you post them, post strong answers, right? Be authoritative. And then the last thing I want to talk about is reaching out for help. And by help, I don't mean necessarily just hire somebody, although there's great agencies out there. I can recommend a really good one if you need. But by help, I mean there are publishing sites out there that are huge. Get help from them by using their audience. If you can get a blog post or an article posted on their site and have a link back to yours, when people read that, so think about this. People think this is a pipe dream, but it happens quite frequently. If you can write an article and gets put on Huffington Post, HuffPost, right? At the end of it, it's going to talk about you as the author and how you can be reached and contacted, your website. Well, if the visibility that Huffington Post has is now, in a sense, promoting you and your website, I guarantee you will get a spike in traffic. So if you can get published on other really large sites, all you have to do is find those large publications and republish their content, right? So the way to get noticed, excuse me, to start, is to look at their content, curate some of it. I'm not saying plagiarize, but curate, put some information from their website onto yours and give them credit. And they will find that you're linking to their website. And when they see you do that frequently enough, they may actually reach out to you and ask if you'd like to put something on their site. Make sure that the content always fits in both ways. You don't want to talk about something that's not relevant to them. And in some cases, actually pitch it to them. Larger sites will have, if you scroll down to the bottom, how to contact us, or how to contact us, or how to submit your work. And a lot of times it's easier than you might think, okay? A lot of places, they call this guest posting or guest author. But it's really a great way. And you don't have to start with the big guys. Even if there's a blog in your industry, reach out to them and say, hey, I'd like to post some information for your readers. Are you into that? Can I do that for you? A lot of times they'll just say yes. Okay. So 5-ish steps that we talked about is your website platform. You want to make sure it's optimized for the search engines. You want to optimize your web copy, make it so that's things that people want, right? Consider your headlines, etc. Supersize your social media. Make sure you know your audience and the platforms and the nuances there to make sure that your message gets out the way it should be. And then lastly, reach out for help. If you have any questions or you want a one-to-one website audits complimentary, just reach me at my website. Thank you very much. Any questions? As a hush falls across the room.
Hey, great job, Paul. Yeah, that was perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was really well done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really concise. Yeah, I like the idea of the guest posts and lifting content. It's almost like trying to become like an aggregator on your site.
Yeah, yeah. And you become known as the expert of where to go for that content, so people will like you for that too.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. I like that.
It seems like a very easy trap that a website could get put up there and just it's becomes static or quick and not live, but not used to draw people in. And that's it's a challenge because then most small businesses are focused on the business, and not so much the marketing side of it. It's a juggling act for sure. Yeah,
especially when you're a small 1 or 2 man, 5-man show or women. and everybody's doing everything else, right? The
Yeah.
big, larger companies, they have somebody who can just write and do their social media all the time.
Yeah.
It's a good time when you can think about considering outsourcing it to somebody else, if that's a possibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do people use like folks like on Fiverr or something like that to sort of go out there and find content for you, and then you decide if you want to put that on your site? Is there like ways, little ways to do that, or what have you found?
Yeah, so with anything, it's just, beware, watch what you get. You get what you pay for.
Yep.
Not to say that, I've used people on Fiverr for content marketing and some things where they can write articles. It's actually big in the internet industry to get somebody to ghostwrite things for you, to have good quality, to have not so good quality.
Yeah.
One of the issues you might run into, so answer your question directly, Jonas. Yes, if you went to Fiverr and search for article writers, you will get a lot of people.
Yeah.
One of the issues that happens is there are actually programs called article spinners, right? Which takes an article that somebody wrote and it sounds great, good quality content. And it puts it through this program that will go and tweak it and change words, right? So the words that it changes are close to what it was, but when you read it, it almost sounds like you put it in Google Translate from English to French, French to Spanish, and then Spanish back to English.
Yeah, that can be terrible.
When you go to your primary school and you drop your spawns off for their learning lessons, wait, what is that? Oh, when you take your kids to school, right? It's just,
Oh, yeah,
that happens a lot. And, it's just be careful what you get.
that makes
Yeah.
sense.
That's funny.
And I've like Upwork, even with like Relaxed Teams, I've been doing a lot more with having someone run most of Relaxed Teams, and you see he spelled Desiree wrong, even though it was clearly in everything that was there. So, they're very, as far as if you give very good tasks, it's like anything else. I mean, people make mistakes, you have to monitor it, but I found that you got to really assign those people. I use Upwork, and you got to really tell them exactly what to do.
Yeah, I've used Upwork before.
Yeah. And they got to do reps. You can't just do it once. Once they've done it 2 or 3 times, they get better at it. But the first time doing things is usually a lot of, sometimes faster do it yourself. One question in the weeds for you, Paul. It's been a while since I've been on Google. With Google My Business versus Webmasters, do they still have the Google Webmasters, or is everything in Google My Business now? And then what happens without physical locations?
Yeah, so Google Webmaster is now called Google Search Console, right? Just like G Suite is now Google Workplaces or Workspaces.
Workspace, yeah.
And they're changing their icons. It's
Yep.
just a marketing thing, right? Keep everybody on their toes. So that is still available. That's a great way, maybe one time do a session just on what you can see in both Google Analytics, which is a great way to track those metrics that I talked about. That works in concert, hand in hand with Google Search Console, which will tell you things like number of links to your website, what your links are, what broken issues that they find with your website. And the number one rule, you want to make Google happy, right? When Google's happy, they're going to put you higher. If you have errors on your pages, if it's not good mobilely, if your links are too close, if you have broken links, so you're linking to places that change their content and that page is no longer there, that will kind of push you back down. So it's this constant stream of updating and making sure and checking. So yeah, Google My Business is just part of all of that. It's its own little separate piece right now. Perhaps it's going to get sucked in the future, but there's also what people call the Google 3-pack. When you start to scroll through and, so if you're searching for, let's say, Jonas, for commercial doors, it'll show you a little map and it'll show you the 3 specific companies that do that. Well, there are ways to get into those 3. You can't say, I want to be in there and let me just do X, Y, and Z, but it's the whole Google algorithm specifically for the Google 3-pack. Same thing with Google My Business. There are things that you can do if you're not found yet to submit to do that. And, it's a process.
Gotcha.
Anything else?
All right.
Thanks.